Thank you guys. Thank you to a lot of my old friends for coming and supporting me in this. It's been a really exciting venture to launch a business in online coaching. And I'm really grateful to everybody who takes time out of your life to come learn a little bit with me. Someone just jumped into a chat. Let's see. Oh, at least 12 years. To learn a little bit with me. So this is something that I've come across oftentimes in my life, the notion of stopping ourselves from doing things when we want to move ourselves forward in life. A lot of you I haven't talked to in a while, so just a little catch up. You can see my 3 little kids there. On the left, we're living here in Woodland Hills. I'm still enjoying hobbies that I have for a long time, motorcycle riding. And in the last several years, I've been traveling around the country a lot, speaking to groups of CEOs and business owners about how to become more effective leaders. That's me up in Alaska with my pal Moose on one of my adventures. And along the way, something that I come across a lot is the notion of people stopping themselves from moving forward in life, even before they get to the chance for other people to stop them from moving forward in life. We have so much competition in the world and so many obstacles in terms of society and weather and politics and government and finances and everything else that I've always been fascinated by the notion of why we get in our own way before we even give the world a chance to get in our way, and how we can get into that moment and stop ourselves from doing that to give ourselves the best chance of success when we do come across outside and external obstacles. In my experience, these are pretty much the 3 main reasons that we stop ourselves from doing things: doubt, anxiety, and fear. And I wanted to look up the actual definitions of them so we could talk about them in a little more detail. Doubt is defined as a feeling of uncertainty or lack of conviction. And anxiety, a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease, typically about an imminent event or something with an uncertain outcome. We can see how both of those look at uncertainty as something that creates a reaction in us. When we feel uncertain about an outcome, that gives rise to doubts about what's going to happen in the future when we move forward. Anxiety tends to have that physical component to it: shortness of breath, sweaty palms, sweaty forehead, our knees get locked a little bit. People who suffer from really bad anxiety can be agoraphobic, so have trouble even leaving the house. That's all produced from a feeling of uncertainty about what's coming up for us in our futures. Fear is defined as an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain or a threat. I take a little issue with that definition because it tends to focus only on physical threat. Of course, we do feel physical fear. It's the reason we don't, accelerate our cars to 120 miles an hour going around a turn. We don't want to get into physical danger. And certainly if you are going after something like skydiving, there may be some actual fear of physical danger there. But for the most part, we don't experience fear of immediate physical danger or threat. Most fear, the way we experience it day to day in our lives, lives in our head. It occurs to us in sentences in our head like, what if I fail? I have this thing I want to go do, and what if it doesn't work out? And when we go a little deeper, we start to question, what if I lose money? What if I waste time? Or what if people think poorly of me? What if people make fun of me? We have fears of criticism, fears of embarrassment. You want to ask somebody out, what are they going to think of me? Maybe you want to move into parenthood and you fear the outcome of what you may be as a parent. Or in work, you want to go for a new job, go for a new career, just walk into a meeting and raise your hand and speak up. We tend to have our brains fill with, what are the costs that I'm potentially setting myself up for in terms of lost respect, lost status, lost relationship, and lost tangible outcomes that can come if things don't work out the way I want to. We also, all of us, self-judge ourselves. I'm not educated enough to go do this thing that I want to do. I'm not experienced enough to go do this thing that I want to do. I'm not clever enough, pretty enough. I put tall in there because I've never been a tall man. I'm 5'5". I've always been pretty much the shortest guy in every room I'm in since I was like 4 years old. And I grew up in junior high school and high school and college is the, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 inches shorter than a lot of my peers, feeling like the height thing was working against me. People judge themselves for their intelligence, or they feel like they don't fit in, they don't have the same experience with people that others have. I don't deserve is a big self-judgment. that a lot of people have when they start to think about where they've been and what they've done and what they've been told in their lifetime about who they are. We have these self-judgments along with our fear of the future, and these things get in the way of us taking a step towards the things we want to accomplish, even before we take those steps towards the things that we want to accomplish. And some general advice is out there floating around for how to deal with doubt and fear and anxiety. I love the "just do it" line. Nike, I wish I'd come up with that slogan. It's a great slogan, just do it. But I also think of just do it as kind of a fake it till you make it slogan. It really doesn't address the issues that make us doubtful and fearful about outcomes. It just sort of says ignore those and go do it anyway, which is great. I'm a big fan of fake it till you make it because it's better than not going after it to begin with. And a lot of times when you do go into just do it, you learn that you have abilities that you didn't trust yourself to have if you stopped yourself beforehand. But it really does just address moving forward without really addressing why we're holding ourselves back. Same thing with action plans. There's a lot of coaching out there that works in the world of just make action and take action. Making action and taking action is better than not making action and taking action. But if you're not looking at what causes the doubt and fear and anxiety, we're just going to pull ourselves back when we start to go take that action. It's short-lived and it doesn't stick. Positive affirmations. Sometimes we laugh at the notion of positive affirmations. There have been Saturday Night Live skits of people sitting in front of a mirror just saying, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough. We laugh at it. We laugh at it because it doesn't feel real to just tell ourselves something that we don't believe. For affirmations to work, and I'm a big fan of affirmations, positive thoughts is better than negative thoughts about yourself. But for them to work, we have to really start believing on the underside of those that the cause isn't going to have us doubt ourselves anymore. When it comes to physical anxiety, that shortness of breath, sweaty palms, physical reactions that keep us from doing things, there's a lot of great advice out there. Yoga, meditation, breathing exercises, regular exercises. But again, these things only work in the moment. You're moving into a situation that makes you anxious. The exercises, the breathing gets short, the head starts to sweat. You put in the exercises, the meditation, you move yourself into the moment. It's good in the moment, but it doesn't address how to reduce those moments from coming up at all and how to reduce the level of their impact on you. So I say, affirm yourself. Yes, positive talk is so much better than negative talk. Treat your body well. Absolutely. But when it comes to fear and doubt and anxiety and self-judgment, these usual applications are really just Band-Aids. Band-Aids help after you get hurt. With feelings of doubt and anxiety, breathing deeply, telling yourself everything's going to be okay. These are just treating the symptom in the moment. Today, we're going to treat the cause. We're going to look at how we can actually reduce how often doubts and fears and anxiety rise up in you and reduce the level of their impact on you. So just a little expectation setting for the time we'll spend together today. It's not my goal in this hour for everyone to be completely free of fear and doubt. And it never really works for human beings at all. There's no way to entirely get over fear and doubt. It's part of the human experience. But there definitely are tools that we can use that allow us to reduce the impact that fear and doubt have on us. And we're going to go over a lot of those just today. Most of you know this because you're all old friends of mine, that I started my career in the entertainment business. When I got in the entertainment business just after college, there was kind of this phrase, Ken probably knows this phrase, you want to be in pictures. It's kind of a phrase that says to people, good luck, kid. Like, where are you coming from and how are you going to make it in this business? And there's a certain truth to it. When I started in the movie business, I was probably the only kid from Los Angeles who didn't even have 10 degrees of separation to somebody. None of my friends, none of my friends' families. I didn't know anybody in the movie business growing up in the West Valley, no connections, and I had no experience, just none. So what I did have was a lot of fear and a lot of doubt and a lot of anxiety and a lot of uncertainty about how I would even get this career started and where it would go, and all those thoughts of what if I fail and what if it doesn't work out and what if I can't earn a living and what if it's ridiculous, just all of that. This is how I felt at the time, just no solid footing at all. Where do I even start? And I had this perception at the time of what an engine to earn success looked like. In my mind, the engine to earn success was go get experience, and that experience will give me confidence And then from that confidence, I will earn success. But it didn't take me very long to realize that that wasn't really going to work. Experience can teach you a skill, but if you still lack confidence in the execution of that skill, getting success is still going to be elusive. If you've ever ridden a horse, the horse knows when you don't feel confident on the horse. So even if you ride and gain experience, if you don't overcome the feeling of internal doubt and insecurity inside of you, the horse is always going to know that you feel doubtful, and the riding isn't going to improve the way it could if you built the confidence to be on the horse first, and then from that confidence, gained experience. But I didn't have any of those lessons yet. At the time, I thought, go get experience. That'll give me confidence. That'll earn success. So after working on a couple of movies, just like a crew hand here and there, I decided I wanted to be a director. And as soon as I did, I had this sense that everybody I'd ever met was looking at me with this kind of like, I'm sorry, who are you? Like, why do you think you have the ability or the right or the capability to direct a movie? The people I was meeting with, even young crew members that I met in filmmaking organizations, indie film organizations at the time, they all had more experience than me. The cinematographers and art directors and editors who I met, they had all worked on more movies than I had. So I'm sitting in these rooms, I wrote a short film, and I'm like, yeah, I want to make my short film. And I'm sitting in the rooms with people saying, why are they even listening to me? Just full of like, what gives me the right to be here? Total doubt. Everybody who is in the movie business or watches movies knows that having some kind of recognizable name in your movie is important. This actor worked on one of the movies that I've worked on, David Ogden Stiers. He won Emmy Awards for being in MASH, the TV series. He was the voice of Cogswell in Beauty and the Beast. A friend of mine who was a director at the time said, you need to get a star in your movie. You met this guy on set one day. You should send him your short film. I met him one day and shook his hand for 2 minutes. I had no existing relationship with him. And for months I said, yeah, that's a great idea, and didn't do anything about it. So I'm out to lunch one day with that director friend, and he gave me a really good lesson, something that we've probably all heard at some point in our life. He said, you're afraid of failing. You can do nothing and guarantee yourself the outcome you fear, or do something and maybe have a shot at getting what you want. And that notion to me when I was young had never really occurred to me before. I was just in the fear of, I can't call this guy's manager. He's going to think I'm a fool. Why am I reaching out? We don't really know each other. What do you think? My client's going to do a short film for you for no pay. And that's just how I was going to feel silly talking to the manager. If I actually sent the script to David and David didn't like it, those fears of not getting David in my movie were stopping me from even approaching getting David in my movie. So I got the manager's number, I stuck it on my computer, like, I'm going to do this. And I probably waited another 6 months of my friend saying, just call, before I finally called. And he said, send the script. And David was in my movie. That's me on set 25 years ago. I was a kid. So now I'm on set with this Emmy Award-winning actor and all of these crew members who have made more movies than I have as a director. This is my first. And again, I'm sitting there thinking, what am I doing here? Like, all these people are looking at me going, you're the director, come on, show us what to do. And I have no idea what to do, filled with, I can't do this. Just all of the anxiety of, I need experience in order to be able to do this. And here I am doing it with no experience, so I'm just terrified. And it was the first morning of the first day of a 2-day shoot that David saw that in me. And David Ogden Stiers gave me the piece of advice that led me on to my entire career, not only in filmmaking, but all of the coaching and everything that I've been in and exploring for the last 20 years. He said, this is a 2-day shoot. How much time do you want to spend learning how to trust yourself to direct me before you're going to start directing me? And it was really a light bulb moment for me. It was the moment that I realized that this perception of the engine of success didn't work. That getting experience alone doesn't build confidence. It may teach you skills, but it doesn't teach you the confidence to use those skills to build success if the fear and doubt and anxiety and self-judgment are still in you. Those will just undermine the application of the skills. That the actual engine to lead to success is to gain confidence first, to learn how to develop confidence in yourself so that you can then go gain experience, and from that confidently gained experience, then earn success. That was the engine that was going to lead me to my future, not thinking I need to go gain experience while I still felt uncertain and unconfident in myself. That approach is to stop treating the symptom, stop just patching over the anxiety that comes up, and start treating the cause. At the time, as I started getting into this, and over the course of years, I've discovered two ways to learn and change. There's the slow way, which is the way I just described. I think I need to go get a lot of experience first to then become confident. That's the slow way, because your lack of confidence just slows that process down. And there's the fast way. FAST has periods in there because it stands for something I'll get to in just a second. But the fast way is basically ripping off the Band-Aid. It's ripping off the Band-Aid and saying, I don't need to patch over the symptoms when they come up to make myself feel better and tell myself everything's okay. I can actually go to the cause and learn how to reduce my doubts and fears and anxieties to begin with, so I can step into my future and create my future with more confidence. This is what the FAST way stands for. F-A-S-T, feelings, actions, speech, and thought. Fast, the fast way. When you think about that, what you think, what you feel, what you say, and what you do defines your entire relationship to the world. There is no other way for us to relate to this world we live in other than how it makes us feel internally, thoughts and feelings, and how we express those internal thoughts and feelings through our actions and our words. That's it. That's how we relate to everything that comes into us and how we express ourselves to everything outside of us. That is the entire way we relate to the world, our thoughts, feelings, words, and actions. And every human being in the world goes through this engine to create that relationship with the world. We take input through our five senses, our sight, sound, touch, taste, smell. If you have a sixth one, if you're psychic, awesome. Let me know how you got that. I'd love to learn it. For the most part, we all only have five. We take input through the world through our five senses. We hear things, stories, input from the world. We see things, whatever it is. We touch, we feel pleasure, pain through our touch. We take input through the world, and we immediately make an impression in our brain of what that input means. And how we make that impression has developed over the course of our lifetime. So when we were young, you're a baby, you fall down a step, you bounce on your hip, it hurts. Another baby falls down the same step, bounces on the same step, same hip, laughs about it. We all make different impressions from the same input. Two people can be an offender bender, same exact damage. And one person go, oh my God, this is terrible. I have to go to the shop and get my car fixed. It's going to cost me money. And somebody else says, I'm so glad it wasn't worse. We all take similar input in the world. We all see and do the same things around us, but we make different impressions of what we see, hear, taste, touch, smell, based on how we've learned to interpret the world over our lifetime. And how we interpret the world creates our thoughts and feelings. As soon as something happens, we create a thought or feeling or both about that thing. You are all listening to me right now, making an impression based on what I'm saying that's creating thoughts and or feelings inside you. And how those thoughts and feelings live in us determines how we're going to express ourselves through words and actions. We express what we think and what we feel through our words and through our actions. This is happening all the time, to you, to me, to everybody you know, everybody who's ever lived, everybody in the world, no matter their race, religion, color, national origin, background, socioeconomic status, age, everybody goes through this same process moment by moment all the time. We take the world in, we form an impression about it, that creates thoughts and feelings. Our feelings come out of us through words and actions. The slow way of learning is to believe that we are fixed in our impressions of the world, that we've actually created an identity for ourselves over the course of our lifetime where we say to ourselves, this is what I think and feel about the world. Somebody says, do you like to go camping? Yes, I love to go camping. Or no, I don't like to go camping. That's a fixed impression of camping that we've developed in ourselves over the world. Our politics, our relationships, our work life, how we interact with people, what we think about ourselves in terms of all those self-judgments that are negative or our positive qualities. All of it adds up to who we believe we are in the world and creates a fixed range of how we make impressions about input. The problem with that is if we're living in a fixed range of how we make impressions about input, that's creating in us the same range of thoughts and feelings all the time. That's our internal identity, how we define ourselves, the same range of thoughts and feelings. And if we continue taking the same input, making the same impressions, creating the same range of thoughts and feelings, we're going to continue with the same range of words and actions. We're going to keep feeling the same things about ourselves and the world. And we're going to keep speaking and saying and doing the same things about ourselves and out in the world because we're in that engine. Well, if you're in a car driving down the same road in the same car with the same engine, you're always going to go to the same place. If you keep interpreting the world in the same way, creating the same thoughts and feelings in yourself all the time, and expressing those in the same words and actions all the time, you're going to keep getting to exactly the place you are. The fast way is to say, I am not fixed. I am not the product of all the experiences that came before me. Those experiences came before me. I created impressions about them, but I can still choose how I interpret the world. Somebody says, you want to go camping? Your initial instinct is, no, I don't like camping. But then you stop and say, well, wait a minute. The only reason I don't like camping is because I went once when I was 8 years old and didn't have a good time, or somebody told me they didn't like camping once and I believed them. I'm going to be open to camping. Then you go camping and you're sitting out in the woods and all the old thoughts and feelings about why camping is bad start to come back. And each time they do, you say, well, maybe there is something about sitting outside that I enjoy. Maybe there is something about looking at the stars that I enjoy. We are now taking the same input and creating new impressions about it. And when you create new impressions from input, that's going to change how you think and feel about whatever that input is. When you keep creating new impressions, your thoughts about those things will change, and your feelings about those things will change. And when you're now living with a new internal self, when you're defining yourself differently on the outside, it is impossible not to express yourself differently and start speaking and acting in different ways, which changes who you are in the world. It changes that relationship to the world through your thoughts, feelings, words, and actions, which changes the road you're on and gives you the opportunity to actually steer yourself towards a new future that you want to create because you're not going through the same engine that's leading you to the same place. So when I started taking in all of those lessons early in my film career, when I felt so much like I was skidding around on ice with no footing, I actually started going down the process of learning how to become confident. That's how Pamela and I met at some point in our careers, both of us engaging in the process of learning more about ourselves. I started with books. These are just some of my favorites. I've read hundreds. I went to courses and weekends and seminars, listened to Tony Robbins, taking in as much information as I could that would teach me skills on how to change my impressions of how I interpreted the world, which would allow me to change who I felt I was in the world and change how I expressed myself to the world. And that's when I really started to build my movie career. This is the first film that I told you about with David Ogden Steyer's Food for Thought, which was a 20-minute short film that I wound up selling to HBO. And then I went on to, there's me behind the camera in the early days. I was so young. That's me and Cameron Diaz. I was on the crew of one of her first movies way back in the day. That's Daryl Hannah in the first movie that I directed. And I'm really proud, down at the bottom there is a picture of that movie, The Job, right next to Silence of the Lambs on a DVD shelf. I got to produce a movie with Rodney Dangerfield. That's Ron Perlman in the bottom corner in another movie. I directed some of the movies that I've had released. Oscar winner Ben Kingsley there in a movie that I wrote a few years ago. And then my screenwriting career, I sold a script to the guy who produced like 7 Steven Spielberg movies and Gladiator and The Ring. I got to adapt a novel written by the same author who wrote Altered Carbon that became the Netflix series. A couple of years ago, I wrote a remake of War of the Worlds for Universal that Ice Cube stars in. It's still in post, hoping it comes out maybe early next year. None of this would have been possible if I hadn't unfixed what I thought about myself, unfixed all those feelings about myself that I really thought were true, that I'm not tall enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not experienced enough. unfix how I interpret the world and what I believe about myself so I could create new impressions, new interpretations, new thoughts, new feelings, new words, and new actions. I've spent 15 years more even learning how to do that. I don't want anybody who I meet in these webinars to have to spend 15 years learning that process. So I've taken the best of what I've learned for myself and through coaching clients over the last few years and put it into a new course that I call the Fast Way, defining and expressing yourself for ultimate success. I want to be clear on what my intentions are for our time together today. I really want it to come across that the only way for anyone to become consistently confident and secure in all areas of their life is to intentionally shape their thoughts, feelings, words, and actions to express themselves in a direction that they choose instead of by default based on old impressions of the world and old thoughts, feelings, words, and actions. I really want everyone to get that that is true, that there's no way to change who you are in the world without changing what you think, feel, say, and do. There are many different paths and tools and methods to learn how to do that. So I would also like to say that I believe, and I hope you will by the time we're done talking together today, that this program that I've put together, the Fast Way, is the best way to learn how to do that quickly and powerfully. Here's one of my clients, Kelly, who took my one-on-one coaching course, which is called LEAP. She says the course was even better than I thought it would be. Learning about what was holding me back and how to manage and conquer it helped me to become a more confident leader. One of the goals that Kelly and I set in working together was that she was gonna, at the end of our time together, go ask for a raise. She started showing up so confidently at work that before she ever asked for it, before we'd even finished the course and we're still working on how she was gonna ask for it, her boss came to her and offered her a 10% raise because he'd seen how differently she'd been showing up. So Kelly then sent me an email saying this course is 2,000% worth it. I really appreciate what she had to say about it, but even more, I appreciate what she made happen in her life. So I have worked out 3 pretty simple stages to how to stop stopping yourself from going for it, getting it, and keeping it, whatever that is in your life. They're super easy to understand. Change what you think and feel, change what you say and do, and then engage in the practice of building confidence. And we're going to talk about that quite a bit. I really believe in developing a practice that we can implement on a regular basis to create what we want. So stage 1, change how you think and feel. A lot of people hear that and they say, well, that's easier said than done. How do I change what I think and feel about myself and the world? And the reason people think it's easier said than done is because they never really learn how to do it. I have learned and developed many frameworks and practices for that over the years. One of them is something I call get clear on your fear. Usually, most of the time, when a fear first occurs to us, it's very vague. We usually don't even give it a word, but if we were to take a moment to give it a word, we might come up with, I'm afraid of being judged. I'm afraid of failing. I'm afraid of getting hurt. I'm afraid of embarrassment. I'm afraid of criticism. These are very big kind of umbrella expressions of a fear. And it's really impossible to counteract the effects of being afraid of something when you're looking at that something under this huge, vague umbrella. It's kind of looking at a 10,000-foot wall that goes straight up and saying, how am I going to climb that? It's just too big and straight up. There's no way to just say, go away, wall, when the wall is that big in front of you. But we know from people who climb mountains, they don't just go straight up the hardest part. They go up a trail. They go up one switchback at a time. Well, the way to address your fears, kind of one switchback at a time, is to get specific about your fear. When you're not specific about your fear remains vague and unspecified, which recreates and reinforces all of the doubt. Oh, I have this big, huge fear. What am I going to do about it? But when you get specific about your fear, when you break it down into the steps that you can take to climb that mountain or scale that wall, that's when you have the ability to overcome each step of it at a time. So for instance, if your vague fear is, I'm afraid of being judged, I would say, take a moment to think about, question yourself, who and what are you actually afraid of? If you're sitting in a meeting and you want to raise your hand, you want to say something, but you find yourself not doing it, instead of just, oh, I'm afraid of being judged, is there a particular person in this room whose judgment I fear? And if so, What are the particular consequences that might come from that person if this doesn't go the way I want? When we get specific about our fears, we can then address them. So I'm afraid of being judged. It might be I'm afraid colleagues will make fun of me, or a specific colleague will make fun of me. I'm afraid if it doesn't go well, I might lose my job or my income. When I was afraid to start my first short film, I could have listed 30 things. I have 2 here just to keep the deck short. But your fear, you might list 5 things, 10 things, 15 things, 20 things. When you list those things out in specific, when you break down that vague fear into specific fears, step 2 is then just simply reverse the fear you're telling yourself. And there's no mental gymnastics to this. It's not like, well, if I'm not afraid of that, what do I want? It's literally just saying, I'm afraid of colleagues making fun of me. I'm going to now say, my colleagues will respect me for showing boldness. You just write it down. You write down the fear and you write down the reversal of that fear. I know it won't feel true immediately because all of the old thoughts and feelings are still going to come up to tell you that it's not true. But the more you do it, the more you make that full list of your fears, I'm afraid I'll lose my job and income, just becomes my initiative will be rewarded with a promotion and a raise. When you have 5, 10, 15, 20 things that you rewrite, and then you start reading that new list to yourself the next day and reading it again the next day, it starts to change what you think about the situation. There's no way to start making different impressions of input, to start telling yourself new things about a situation and not have it change what you think about the situation. And when you start to change what you think about the situation, that will automatically change how you feel about the situation and yourself and your relationship to others and the world. So if you think, I'm afraid colleagues will make fun of me, that's going to produce feelings of embarrassment and anxiety and maybe shame and insecurity. But if you think, my colleagues will respect me for being bold, that's going to produce feelings of pride and confidence and excitement and anticipation. Will those feelings falter? Yes, absolutely, of course. We're all adults and we've had our whole lifetimes to build historical ways of thinking and feeling about things. It does take some undoing of that to get there. But over time, when you repeat the new thoughts, they will create new feelings. There's a great example if you've ever read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. He says the mind is like a garden. It's a wonderful metaphor for our brains. When we develop a lifetime of doubts and fears and anxieties, those are thoughts about ourselves, which you can compare to weeds in a garden. If a garden is full of weeds, and then you want to go and just plant a flower, that flower is not going to grow. The weeds are just going to overtake it and kill it. You could plant 100 flowers, but if the garden's full of weeds, the weeds are going to overtake the new flowers and not let them grow. But if you pull the weeds first, if you go through this process of getting clear on your fear and reversing it, you pull those weeds first, and now you have a weedless garden, and then you plant the flowers now actually have the opportunity to take root and grow. And then one of the reasons that we think silly positive affirmations don't work is a lot of people just start there. Stop thinking negative thoughts, start thinking positive thoughts. Okay, great, everything's wonderful. No, you have to tend the garden. Tending the garden means constantly being on the lookout for those negative thoughts when they come up and continuing to pluck them. But if your garden's full of flowers instead of weeds, when the flowers have taken root, the weeds grow less often, and it becomes so much easier to identify 1 or 2 or 3 when they're there and pull them out and let the flowers dominate the garden instead of trying to plant a few flowers in a garden full of weeds. That's the analogy of creating positive thinking habits and allowing positive emotions to flow from those habits. But it does take tending the garden. It takes looking at every vague fear, breaking it down into specific fears, reversing those specific fears, and then reading and reminding ourselves of what the positive aspects of those that we're going to look at until they take root and grow more frequently. But here's the best part. When you start thinking and feeling differently, you will automatically start to speak and act differently. It just flows one to another. It's human behavior. So that brings us to stage 2, change what you say and do. So several years ago, as I was in the film career and seeing the ups and downs in the movie business, and I wanted to create a second business for myself, and knowing that I wanted it to be in the world of coaching and helping other people learn a lot of things that I learned a lot of way from wonderful other people, I started this company, Breakthrough Leadership Training. And when I did, I immediately started having old fears come back. Whenever we want to go into a new direction, even if we've overcome our fears for the direction we're in, whenever we want to go into a new direction, old thoughts and feelings are going to come back. We're hardwired that way. But this time I didn't spend 3 months thinking about writing my script and 5 months worried about handing it to people and another 6 months worried about sending the script to David Ogden Stiers. I had already learned these skills. That's why I call it the fast way. I sat down, I figured out my vague fear again. I'm afraid of failing. I broke that down into specific fears. Friends and family will see me as a failure in my movie career. Clients won't think I have experience. No one will hire me. I'll go broke. I'll lose my house. I'll let down my family. Those were all the things specifically that were living in me that I couldn't have really identified if I just lived in, I'm afraid of failing. I did the process, reversed those. My friends and family will be awed by my new success. Clients will see their lives change. Everyone will hire me. I'll make more income than ever. I'll buy a new house. I'll give my family an amazing future. I started telling myself these positive things that created positive feelings of success and excitement about the new career instead of negative feelings of fear and worry about the new career. And from that, new actions had to follow. There's no way to keep telling ourselves positive things, keep feeling positive emotions from it, and not take action on them. If we do, it's just old fears coming in and trying to pull us back into the weeds. And when that happens, we just go through the process again until the positive feelings and thoughts really take root and begin to produce new actions. So in the case of my new business, I started making my company brochure and developing my early training courses and my early one-on-one coaching courses. And this time it only took me a month before I was staring at that ready to get started question on a website instead of a year like with my short film. I had a friend who was part of a company that said they hire public speakers. I went to their website. Here it was, ready to get started. Yes, no. But the new feelings, new thoughts were already coming out of me in terms of words and actions. So I clicked yes and made that leap quickly instead of the slow way like I did the first time years ago with my film career. And literally, it took about a month before I was traveling the country. I've been to Seattle, Philadelphia, Alaska, speaking to rooms of business owners and CEOs and executives about these very tools. I created that new career literally within 2 months because I knew the practice of developing confidence in advance before I had any experience. This is one of my favorite quotes, Ralph Waldo Emerson: "Do the thing you fear, and death of fear is certain." You might not get the outcome that you're looking for, but when you step into the world of facing your fear, what you were afraid of diminishes. And when you go through that process, I guarantee you, when you feeling like you have no footing because you have no experience, is going to turn into strutting down the street because you're going to have the confidence first to go gain the experience. Here's my client, Robin. Robin owns an organic skincare company that at one point was doing very, very well in Japan. It was making, I think it was like a few $1 million in sales a year in Japan, doing very well. And then a law or a business practice changed in Japan. His business over there dried up almost overnight. And he really went into a funk. We worked together. Robin says, Ken helped me to break out of doubting myself after a major market change. And through taking the leap with him, Leap is the name of my one-on-one executive course, I became energized to rebuild my company and sell it. It was all about looking at what he was afraid of and changing the way he was approaching his next steps. So that's changing what you think and feel, which will change what you say and do. And then step 3, as I said before, engage in the practice of putting all that into motion in the world. When we are focused on a result, if there's just a thing you want, whether it's a raise, a promotion, get a yes from a client or a customer or something in your personal life, when you're focused on the result, that builds anxiety. When the only outcomes are yes or no, that produces anxiety. If a baseball player steps up to the plate and says, I have to hit a home run, that's where doubt and fear comes in because you have no control over whether the result is going to be yes or no, got it or didn't in that moment. But when you focus on the practice, you develop in yourself the opportunity to build confidence as you go gain experience. Because the truth is, there is no failure in practice. Practice only makes us better. Now, whatever you do, you may develop a different practice. For a baseball player, it may be spend time working on the muscles in my legs, spend time working on my stance, spend time working on my hip swivel, spend time working on my swing, spend time working on my grip, spend time working on my arm muscles, spend time working on my hand-eye coordination. But as the baseball player spends time on each of those things and develops a practice for each of those elements, then stepping up to the plate doesn't become about, I have to hit a home run. Stepping up to the plate becomes about, do the grip the way I practiced it, do the hip swivel the way I practiced it, do the stance, do the swing, do the eye contact the way I practiced it. Those things become natural, which reduces anxiety and allows you to be confident first. When we think about practice, the very top performing people all over the world in every industry still practice every day. You know, all of these people, Serena Williams, Harry Styles, Simone Biles, Michael Phelps, I could put 50 others up here. Everybody who everyone knows, the top performers, medal winners, award winners, people who make the top sales, the top in everything, they still practice every day. They never stop focusing on the practice, because they know that the practice is what gives them success when they go into the moment where they need to succeed, not focusing on the result. So if there's something you want to do, whatever it is in your life, whether it's personal or business, family, relationships, friends, money, travel, health, whatever it is, develop a practice for yourself so that you can focus on the practice instead of the results. I'm a public speaker. My practice is every time I come up with a new presentation, I write it. I write it out. I'm a writer and a speaker. I write my things out, but then I speak it aloud. This is part of my practice, letting it move from just being in my brain out through my mouth and getting comfortable with that. And then I don't know how it's going to look to others, so I record it and I watch it back. And then I do it in front of other colleagues to get feedback in advance. That's part of my practice. Obviously, I also believe that getting coaching is a big part of any practice. I mean, kudos to everybody who's here today. Seeking out coaching and new ways of input and new ways of learning about ourselves is a big part of figuring out new ways to go do things. These same people still use coaches every day. Serena Williams, after all of her championships, has never said, I don't need a tennis coach anymore. Harry Styles still has a singing coach, still has a dancing coach. Simone Biles is not going to her next Olympics without a gymnastics coach. Michael Phelps is retired, but when he had 30 medals hanging around his neck, he still had a swim coach. The top performers in every field still get coaching every day. When I was changing careers and I wanted to become a public speaker, I found a coach on public speaking and I hired her to teach me how to go do it. So when I went to stand in front of those rooms of CEOs, I had developed a practice that allowed me to do it without being attached to the result or fearing what they were going to think about me or what was going to happen as a result of the speech. Just do the practice and be confident in that. I wish to no extent that I knew this when I started my film career and that I had gotten coaching and being a film director before I started. It's one of the great regrets that I hadn't learned these tools earlier so that I could have built my film career the fast way instead of the slow way. I'm also a big believer in rehearsal. Rehearse. The practice of building confidence is self-rewarding. It's the opposite of living in a vague umbrella fear. Living in a vague umbrella fear is self-reinforcing of the fear and the anxiety and the doubt. Living in a practice is self-rewarding in the confidence that it builds. The more you do it, the better you get always. This is my client, George. George says, I use Ken for his Leap Life Expression and Power course. It's my one-on-one coaching course, which challenged me in more ways than I was expecting. Ken is concise, sharp, and intuitive. Thank you, George. He's a seasoned coach and can help anyone who's wanting to make positive, lasting changes in their life. I appreciate everything my clients have to say about what I did for them, but even more, I appreciate what they did for themselves, creating a new way of thinking and feeling about themselves, that create a new way of acting in the world to create new results for themselves. So those are my top 3 ways to stop yourself, to stop stopping yourself from going for it, getting it, and keeping it. Change how you think and feel, change what you say and do, and engage in the practice of building confidence. So I ask you, would those steps stop stopping you and produce more confidence and success in your life? While you think about the answer to that, let me tell you who I believe this work works for. Me personally, I think works for everybody, men and women, every age range. I literally have clients in my 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, hourly and salaried employees, managers, executives, key executives, CEO owners, entrepreneurs, creative artists, teachers, lawyers, doctors, professionals, salespeople. I think this is addressing the human condition, and that these tools work for any human being who wants to reverse that engine of fixed input, fixed thinking and feeling, fixed actions and words into intentional interpretation of input, intentional creation of thoughts and feelings, intentional expression of yourself in thoughts and words. Here's my client, Robert.
What's going on, everybody? Name is Robert Anderson. I came into the coaching program with Ken Goldie. I am an aspiring coach myself. However, I have been dealing with some doubts and some issues, just my own hangups about my own self-worth. And just through one coaching session, it really opened my eyes to doing what's necessary and moving forward and really taking those actions. So I highly recommend taking the Fast Way with Ken Goldie.
Thank you, Robert. I do appreciate again that he got such great results to go take action in his life. So then it comes down to the same thing, 4 words that I faced when I was looking at that website about getting started as a public speaker. Are you ready to rip off the Band-Aid? If so, I have this new course. It's my first online course that I'm doing called The Fast Way, Defining and Expressing Yourself for Ultimate Success. And I hope it's okay with you if I spend a few more minutes. Is it okay with you if I spend a few more minutes to show you how I can help you do that? So this is what the Fast Way curriculum looks like. It's a 6-session online course directly with me. I do the coaching in the course. Each session is 60 to 90 minutes. It's delivered via Zoom, so you can attend from anywhere in the world, anywhere in the country. There are many, many more tools and frameworks than the ones we've been able to talk about here today for you to learn, so I can show you how to implement that practice in your life and have me there to coach you in the implementation of it. To this point, I have only ever done one-on-one coaching and like management team in-person training. I'm at the point where I'm charging $5,000 now to almost $10,000 for doing one-on-one coaching and day training for management teams. But I've learned and have seen over the last few years that that has limited my accessibility to many, many other people. I go to a lot of management team trainings and the CEO of the company hires me to coach, but the people in the team training aren't able to. So I wanted to do an online group course where many, many more people could join it and spread the word of the Fast Way even faster by doing that. So this is the first time I'm going to be doing an online course. So my one-to-one coaching is now about $6,000, but I'm not charging that for the group course. For the group course, the price is going to be about $2,000, but because this is the first time I'm doing the group course and I'm going to be developing it with people as we go, I'm cutting that in half for this first group course to $1,000. And then also as my thank you for people who actually take the time to join me for this webinar, I'm taking another 20% off. So $797, about $800 for the 6-session course with me. There are many, many bonuses that come with that. One is I set up a private members area that you will have lifetime access to. For as long as I'm doing this, the video recordings of each session will be posted in your members area, so you can revisit them forever. So if you've ever been to a weekend or a seminar and you take notes of what the speakers say on stage, when you're done, all you have to do to go home with is your notes. But in this case, all of the recordings of your sessions, of your learning, will be there forever. I provide a weekly workbook, so you don't have to like create documents in your computer. You'll get the workbook with all the exercises in it. And I'm in the process of writing a book called The Fast Way, and that's free for everybody who takes the courses. It'll be there in the members area, early access for everybody as soon as it's ready. You're also going to have the opportunity to do an extra bonus training session with me, which I'll tell you about in a moment. But here's Dom, one of my new clients who's going to be taking this Fast Way course, who was in a webinar a couple of weeks ago and already did that bonus training session. Here's what Dom had to say about it.
So yesterday I took the Fast Way with Ken, and I was coming to the table with PTSD-like triggers, irritability, not communicating well. And what Ken really unlocked for me is this ability to look at those triggers and realize that they're just thoughts. And ultimately those things become actions. And you can reverse engineer that. You can practice different actions, different words. It's a huge hack to be able to feel like you have more authority and sort of break through resistance in your life, these tools are going to be massively helpful. And the beautiful thing is it's all in the name. Ken's got the way to do it the fast way.
I appreciate that he likes the name, but even more, I appreciate that he's doing the course with me and he's going to be taking on the practice of creating confidence to go move forward and create what he wants to create for himself in his life. So that's the course that I'm here developing now to start. It starts next week, on a week from today, Friday the 21st. It's 6 sessions. It goes through the end of May. It's private access to the private members area for life. It's the recordings for life. It's the workbooks. It's whatever other stuff that I develop over the course of time that I put up in there. The new book, it's over $6,000 in value compared to my one-on-one coaching. And I told you that Dom just did, after the webinar and before the course, I always do an extra bonus training session. This one's going to be next Tuesday, the 18th. It's about an hour and a half long. So on my hourly rate, it's like $1,000 value just to go to this extra bonus session where we're going to take the 3 stages that we talked about today and dig into them with you personally, direct coaching on digging into how you're going to get clear on your fear and reverse those stages for yourself. And in order to give everyone the best opportunity to get started, I only ask for $1 to get started, because I don't want anybody who ever sits through a webinar with me to go through those doubts of, oh, what's it going to cost, and can I afford it, and how much time will it going to take, and will it be worth it? Might I waste the time or waste the money? I don't want those kind of thoughts to stop anybody. So what I do is I offer the trial for $1. It locks in the current price of $7.97. If you don't do a webinar and you just see one of my ads and go to the website, it's going to be $9.97 for this first course, as I showed you. Come to the training on Tuesday, dig into your own changes. If you do that training on Tuesday and you agree with me that the fast way is the best way to go change your course to get you towards the things you want to accomplish more efficiently in your life, then you do nothing. You come to the first course session of the course 3 days later and everything moves forward as planned. If you take that training session with me and you decide, you know what, this isn't for me, this coaching isn't what I need, I want to go try something else, I give you my blessing. You just send me an email saying you want to cancel and you won't be charged at all. And you'll have that hour-and-a-half training session with me, working directly with you to go through the steps of the three changes for $1. But I would like you to ask yourself, if working through this course, if working through the fast way for you only get you to stop worrying about what other people are thinking about what you're doing, would that alone, just that change alone, be worth it? If the only thing that you get out of a course like this is that you're not nervous about what people think when you speak up for yourself, would that be worth it? If the only thing you get is the confidence to go ask for a raise or change jobs or start a new career or start a new business, would that be worth it? Like my client Kelly, if this gives you the opportunity to go ask for a raise or land one more commission deal or one more deal, would that pay for itself if you can learn the tools to go gain the confidence and express yourself through an intent that creates the results that you want in advance? So that's the Fast Way course. You get the free pre-course training next Tuesday. It's $7.97, but you're paying only $1 today to get started. These are the course dates. Go ahead and take a screenshot if you want, or check your calendar. It starts next Friday, the 21st. It's the Thursday after that. And then most of them are Fridays. There's another Tuesday through the end of May. And there is also, for people who want to do the course, but aren't available for these dates, or don't want to lock yourself into dates, I offer a home study option where you would be able to log into the members area. After every session, I post the recording of that session into the members area. After about 48 hours, I edit it a little bit. You can then watch that session, which is just like watching me doing the coaching and leading you through the training in person, except you wouldn't have the interaction with me. You can do the home study. If someone chooses the home study, if they can't be there live with me and get the interaction, it's less. It's almost half the price. It's $4.97. It includes the same $1 trial. You still get to come to the free bonus training next Tuesday. Decide if this is really what you want for your life. If it is, great, do nothing, move forward. You'll be logged in for the home study when the course begins. If not, you just send me a cancellation notice and I'll cancel you and you won't be charged for the course at all. And I make one more special one-time offer just for people who are here on this webinar. If what I've talked to you about tells you you really want to get started, like if you know this course is for you and you don't need that $1 trial, if you don't need that 48-hour cancellation window, if you want to get started and pay in full today, I give you another $100 off. So if you get started and pay in full today, I give you another $100 off. The live course becomes $697. The home study course becomes $397. You can see the website there on your screen. I'm trying to figure out how to drop it into the chat. You don't see the chat window at the moment. I'm not sure why, but I'll drop it into the chat in a few minutes, or you can type it out, breakthroughleadershipwebinars.com. There's my chat. I'm going to paste that in. There's the link. You can click on that. It's in the chat. You'll see all of the options there. You'll see the home study option, the live course option, the $1 trial for each, or the pay in full today for $100 off, which brings you to a choice to make. As we always do every day in our lives, we always have a choice to make with every new option that comes our way. You can enjoy the coaching you've received today. It's my pleasure to have shared it with you, and go continue in your life and in the journey that you're on. I give everybody free range to go experience life exactly how they want to experience life. Or you can choose to do something different, change how you think and feel, change what you say and do in a new way to define and express yourself to achieve the results that you're looking to achieve in your life. So we ask ourselves, do we want to create our futures with courage and confidence? And if you now feel that the best way to do that is with me, click on the link in the chat, go to the sign up page, choose your option, and join me to do this. It is really a joy for me to work with people and create these experiences for them.